Marvel Rivals Esports is still in its fledgling beginnings, but already it seems that a hero has been born. If you haven't been paying attention, NTMR Esports established their presence in Marvel Rivals at the very beginning, back during the closed beta tournament all the way in summer of 2024. Following that up with the launch of the game, winning back-to-back the very first official Marvel Rivals tournaments on release, as well as catching a few more dubs on the way. And while they didn't end up grabbing the first prize in Season 0, they've been hard at work winning as many third-party tournaments as possible, with two of their members, Hogs and Super Gomez, even on the winning team of the Twitch Rivals event. But how are they so good? What makes them so consistent? And what are they doing that everybody else isn't? Worry not, because I'm going to answer all those questions right now. If you like Marvel Rivals Esports content, then do not forget to subscribe, because I'm working hard to establish myself in the Marvel Rivals Esports community as a top caster and coach. But without wasting more of your time, let's get started. On February 1st, I had the pleasure of casting a small $200 tournament featuring NTMR, where I got to see them up close against another very good team called Flashfire. Not only did we get to see some incredible macros from the team, but we also got to see exactly why NTMR is staying true to the 2-2-2 team comp. Something that has gotten a lot of people riled up, especially in the form of some goat-flavored PTSD. But I wanted to start today off looking at some domination matches that they had up against Flashfire. So when we start off, I do want to point out that the Wolverine ban that you see on screen here is going to be very important, as well as the Magneto and Strange ban that the fine folks at NTMR chose to go with. Remember that this is a domination match, and it's just going to be capture the point. Now, starting off, I do want to point out, we could see Kurova on the Jeff. Now, Kurova is not playing Jeff. Spoiler alert, as much as I would love to see it, we're not seeing Jeff. But why, then, is Kurova starting on Jeff? For the sole purpose of doing those speed boost bubbles. That is it. Just giving the team a speed boost before switching over to Cloak and Dagger that he's actually going to be playing. I love that. I love the attention to detail to get the team out there first. A commonality that you're going to be seeing with this team is that they like to fight up close and personal. I mean, if you look at their tanks that they chose, of course, with Captain America and Thor, you have to get up close and personal, right? Especially because there is no Wolverine that they have to worry about right now. They're not worried about positioning in a way that somebody's going to get kidnapped. And the first fight here doesn't actually work out too well for them, but there's a few macro things that I want to point out. And it starts with the DPS. Let's look at Rymazing Storm versus Melophobia's Storm. Now, both Storms are going to be trying to sit behind cover and do poke damage, right? While Rymazing is, of course, hoping to get a pick onto Melophobia, trying to just get that duel, what's primarily happening right now is keeping focus on Rymazing, keeping focus here, so that Hogs can sort of get into the back line. The other secondary function that Rymazing is trying to do is get his ult charged as fast as possible, with as many hits as you can. Usually, you want to get a kill dealing as little damage as possible, so that if the enemy strategists keep healing, they don't charge their ults as fast. But I want you to think about the impact of certain ultimates in this game. Primarily, the strategist ultimates like Luna Snow and Cloak and Dagger and what they do on the battlefield, as well as thinking about Storm's ultimate and what Storm's ultimate is going to be able to do. Keep that in your head for now, and we'll jump into it in a second. With that first fight not working out, the team has to go in for a reset, and they're gonna do just that. They back away, they make sure they don't trickle, they get a full reset, and the team goes in as one. Let's look at what Rymazing is gonna do here the moment that ultimate comes online. The team is waiting for their opportunity to go in. They're not just gonna go in without an ultimate, something that can change the game. Rymazing gets that ult online, and as soon as that ult is online, that is time to go. Now, remember, we're talking about what these ults do, what these ults are capable of. Well, the number one thing they're capable of is displacement. They're going to be ultimates that push enemies away from where they're at. With Storm, it's because there's damage happening in the area, you have to leave. With Cloak and Dagger, it's this is damaging the enemy team and it's healing me, so we take that space. We see Rymazing go in, and now is he going to be going for the supports or is he going to be going for the DPS? If you're NTMR and you're thinking one step ahead, you know that the enemy Cloak and Dagger could probably just pull their ultimate. If Rocket has his ult, then Cloak and Dagger definitely has the ultimate as well. So we're going to get the pick onto the very first people that we can, the most important, which is the DPS. Taking out both DPS at the same time is incredible, because as you can see, Cloak and Dagger is going to ult right there. With Cloak and Dagger ult, If the DPS didn't go down right there, then this fight would get a lot trickier. Of course, you might want to try to prioritize taking out the supports. That is usually the best course of action. But if Cloak and Dagger ult comes through and then the supports and the DPS both just live, the fight is a lot harder versus having Cloak and Dagger ult. Well, we can also use our own Cloak and Dagger ult, and then we're just fighting on the point with the tickle fight going on, and we have our DPSs online, you do not. So this fight is immediately turned just via good macro and knowing exactly where they need to throw their ultimates, knowing exactly where they need to pace their fight, and also, not only that, but like I said, you got 2 Cloak and Dagger ultimates. So our Mori is able to pull the Cloak and Dagger ultimate from Loki, and that's going to allow them to survive just a little bit longer than the enemy team. They're holding on to this point for a lot longer now. And even through the enemy Storm ult, they cannot survive through it. There's just too much healing going on. And not only that, but remember, it took a while for those DPS to come back. And when they came back, they were panicked. We had both of those ults, and we didn't get any value from the Punisher ult. We didn't get any value from the enemy's Storm ult. And it's this sort of mentality that allows Nightmare to just remain in control no matter what happens. Nightmare Esports is very, very good at this, and this is not the only case of this happening. Later in the match, the point gets flipped again. We can see that it actually gets flipped because, remember at the very beginning how I said Nightmare likes to fight up as close as possible to prevent? That is something that you can do on this map, where you can fight really, really close to the enemy spawn and make sure that they can't get any time on the point whatsoever. But the enemy actually does something pretty good here. So what Flashfire does is they're getting their ults online, same ideology, they're charging something, they can't just take the point without an ultimate, so they're waiting for some of the ults to come online. One of the most important ults for them for displacement is going to be Melophobia's Storm ult, and they're going to try to get that online as fast as possible. And the moment that Melophobia gets the ultimate online, look at what happens. So we do still have a lot of stuff going on in the background, where we've got Rymazing and Hogs just diving in, taking this fight to them. But with that Storm ult online, come the next team fight, what ends up happening is Storm disappears. Uses the ult, disappears. Where is Storm going? Right onto the point to actually kind of C9 it and capture it. But even in the face of Storm actually getting this ult online, we still have people that can deal with it. So Super Gomez on Psylocke now has ult ready, can actually just solo out this team that decided to split themselves. Mace gets a pick over on this side. Punisher ults, but he ults not knowing whether to shoot these guys or these guys. He can't get a hit onto the people on the point because there is a huge wall in the way, and the people that aren't on the point that are fighting up closer to Flashfire spawn, well, they just use a Cloak and Dagger ult to actually survive through that, as well as having a bunch of Loki util online. Now, Hulk is going to be able to go into his Super Hulk mode and continues this fight. But as the rest of the enemy team just starts to trickle out, we get Nightmare coming onto the point and ready to just take control, take over, and they have a lot more of their ult economy ready to go for the next fight on this overtime point, because the fact that the entirety of Flashfire is now changing, changing their team comp to dive onto the point faster. So Nightmare flips the point, they get the objective. Now we're looking at map 2, and oh, look at that. It's gonna be the same thing where we get Jeff to give a little speed boost, and now we're swapping. And it's not just Jeff that they do this with. They actually have a few different tricks up their sleeve for being able to get one up on the enemy team. When we look at this as well, remember I said that we have a tendency to try and fight up close to the enemy spawn, so that no matter what, our up close and personal team composition is going to be favored. And I want you to think of it in a two-step scenario, a best of both worlds scenario. So there's two options to go. You can either go straight down these stairs, or you can go up to the upper platform. The enemies also have the same two choices, up to the upper platform or straight to the stairs. And for Nightmare Esports, they know that the best option is to go for this upper platform. And that's for two reasons. Well, if the enemies go for that upper platform, we're up close and personal. If the enemies don't go for the upper platform, this is still a lot closer than this. If we're thinking about this in terms of just the smallest details that you want to consider, this is already a fantastic start. And we'll go ahead and check out how Hogs starts to make this about him, and also Rymazing with the ultimate, diving and immediately soloing out the back line, taking out Shocker. Unfortunately gets traded for it, but it is going to be a trade that is very worthwhile. Just the brief moment that they don't have one of their 3 healers online in this triple support comp that they're running, that's going to be just enough to keep them dispersed, keep them staggered enough to where they're going to be able to get a couple more picks. Nightmare is going to be able to come and control the point, and Bob's your uncle. Skipping ahead a little bit into the fight, and we're gonna see when Flashfire attempts to take over, but we have our Amori able to swap over to Cloak and Dagger, pop the ultimate, and keep things moving. Remember that the enemies need to have ultimates online in order to try to come through and overcome the pressure that's on the point. But what Nightmare is going to do is they're going to try to keep their ults stacked as close as possible to just counter any of that presence. So we saw Rymazing dive in with that Storm ult, and we already have both of the tanks just diving into their back line and making sure that everybody gets a fist. And in shutting down the pushes with the enemy ultimates, they're establishing themselves with a very good baseline. Now, Hulk is just diving in there, doing whatever he needs to. He's getting enough healing from his team, so it's fine. But look at where Mace is about to stack up. They have 3 ultimates online. They're going to be relatively close to getting the Loki one online as well. They know that the enemy Cloak and Dagger used their ult recently. They know that the enemy Sue Storm hasn't used that ult just yet. And baiting the enemy ults out before they get on the point is going to be key. So watch how they try to do this. They're going to try to make sure that that pressure happens, again, as close to the spawn as possible, so that the enemies can't get the chance to possibly change the game and ult on site. And that's why as soon as they're ready to go, Kurova is ready with the Cloak and Dagger ult. Cloak and Dagger ult going to come out. It's also going to cause the enemy Sue Storm ult to come out, and this is not on the point. If that Sue Storm ult got on the point, that's problematic. So they're able to get as much value as possible out of just making them use the ults a little bit early. Now, Cloak and Dagger ult from the enemies is still available, and they know that that's probably going to happen. So Hulk's #1 job right now is to prevent that from happening. Unfortunately, doesn't quite happen. Probably, focused on the wrong blonde white woman. It is what it is. But at the end of the day, enough ults had been used by the enemy team that they didn't really have the impact that they wanted to. Rymazing going to be able to clean it up with the Storm ult, and that is map 2. So we learned a few key things here. Displacement, ult timing, and ult economy, and forcing enemy ults in less than ideal situations. And of course, we've got min-maxing, utilizing abilities from heroes we're not playing by just throwing them out as quickly as possible in the spawn room and then swapping to whoever we're actually playing. But hey, no team is perfect. Let's go ahead and watch what happens on the next map under some different circumstances where we have a few different things going on. So, of course, this time around, instead of the Wolverine ban, Storm gets banned. And so they rebuttal, and Nightmare's rebuttal is to then play Wolverine. They are still going to be going for the Magneto ban and the Strange ban because they know that those are the tanks that a lot of people are relying on, and they're going to be able to just get better using Hulk and Thor. So, off the rip, let's see what these teams are going to select. A big note here, Cloak and Dagger also banned. That is going to be coming into play very soon. Remember what we talked about with displacement. Remember how displacement is important and how Cloak and Dagger's ultimate as an ability is important. Grova going to be throwing out them bubbles and swapping over to Luna Snow. And we remember the other key detail that we talked about, taking fights up close and personal as early as possible. Let's see Wolverine, Super Gomez. He's going to try to take out Hulk. He unfortunately misses the kidnap, so that plan is going to have to come back at another time. But the team does still stack up to take this fight. That being said, this is late in the day. Flashfire is already very aware that this is the fighting method of Nightmare. They're going to get countered. And they get countered because they decided to swing out in a way that Nightmare's unable to deal with. Nightmare is a little bit too far away from all of this burst damage that's happening from far away. In fact, Hogs is the first to go down. Mace is struggling here after getting kidnapped. Super Gomez misses another kidnap attempt, and the first pick just doesn't end up going the way that they wanted it to. So the team is going to have to set up for a reset on this next point. The team has to try and come back. They have to try to set up, and remember how we said that it's going to be very important to utilize ultimates in order to take the point. You can't just take the point without an ultimate. Well, they tried to here, but unfortunately, Mace gets kidnapped by Wolverine, and Aramori is gonna try to take a Luna Snow ult, and it's just a little bit too late. That timing isn't there. They forgot they have to worry about Wolverine. That also happens a second time. I'm not even kidding. The exact same thing happens a second time, where they're ready for another team fight. Wolverine gets a kidnap, Mace can't get out, and another Luna Snow ult comes through. It's really unfortunate that that happens twice, but this is still going to be an opportunity that they can go out and take this win. That's because they have enough ults online that it doesn't matter if they lost one of their vanguards. They have another one. Captain America is still alive, still right there. They're going to be able to try and take this fight because they know that their ult economy is stronger than the enemy's. And I want you to pay attention to Rymazing and how he uses his Namor ult as a counter. Because when we're talking about support ults, we're talking about, say it with me, displacement. And what better anti-displacement tool than an instant kill on enemy supports? It's beautiful. It's textbook. It is amazing. And if you don't have Magneto to throw a Meteor M, well, throwing an entire whale onto the enemy's back line while they're inside of a support ult is the next best thing. This allows Nightmare to get the point, they swap it over, but unfortunately, they don't end up winning this next one. Remember, we want to take fight, we want to take fight up close, we want them to use their ults not on the point, we want to do that as soon as possible, we want to make sure that as the enemies start to trickle in, we maybe get a pick, we maybe make sure that we are standing on top, just ready for anything. We have our ults online, and there we go. We're gonna use Captain America ult. It's not a very great ult for displacement, but it is a great ult to do exactly this. Rush into the enemy, make sure that we can apply some pressure, and maybe get them to pop one of their ults early. That's exactly what happens. That being said, Hogs goes down. Captain America going down there, it's just enough pressure release from the enemies to let them get all the way out here. Add on to that a couple of picks, add on to that a very well-placed ult, and we have Flashfire coming in and taking the win. All right, we're gonna skip all the way into map 3. Map 2 and map 3, it's pretty much the same macros. We see Aramori go in, do the Jeff thing, get all those bubbles out so they get the speed boost, and remember what we were talking about with regards to how you wanna take these fights using a team comp like this. Get up close and personal as soon as possible. In this case, they're going to be utilizing that upper platform. They're going to be utilizing the just straightforward bum rush approach here, and they want to get that fight started quickly. But it doesn't go to plan. It doesn't go to plan initially. Hogs tries to get in their back line, does the Hulk thing where you get the enemies to focus you. Unfortunately, team doesn't split up, right? The Flashfire is actually very stable in their approach. Flashfire is about to start taking some presence. The goal, keep everybody alive, right? Keep everybody alive, and not only that, but as Flashfire's Hulk, Crazy Mang, goes for the Hulk ult, you know what this usually means. Try to find a support player, try to find a locker, shove them into it, however that ends up working. So in order to prevent Hulk from ruining everybody's day, Team Nightmare has one opportunity, and that is to get an ult that will fix this. In this case, it's gonna have to be a defensive ult, and in this case, Sue Storm ult is one bullet away from coming online. The moment that Sue Storm ult comes on, they need to get space on the point because they are about to get pushed off of it. It comes on immediately. Team is able to fight on it, establish space, establish presence, and it works out very, very well. Match to that, Rymazing being incredible on Namor. Match to that, Super Gomez finding an opportunity to get into the backline and bully them. And now we have established presence on the point. So off the back of that team fight, we have a rule, right? We want them to fight up as close as possible to their spawn. We want to be the ones in charge so that they have to use their ults in a non-ideal place. Unfortunately, though, they realized pretty early that they can't have their brawlers up close because, well, they've got a Wolverine, and Wolverine can get a kidnap. Wolverine can get a kidnap. So now that plan doesn't end up working out. So plan 2, back up and get on the point. If you are in charge of the point, you want to ult second. You want them to ult first, and you want to be able to cancel that out with your ultimate. You don't want to use your ult to try to take space that you don't need, and then they can use their ult second and push you back even further. So right now, they're waiting to see what happens. And of course, Luna Snow ult. Now, Aramori's Luna Snow ult not online yet, but the moment it is, boom, it's gonna come through and we ult fight. I love the whales. I love the whales. Let's see how they land. Rymazing gets a hit onto Shocker, and this turns the fight immediately into a Nightmare victory because of the fact that they ulted second. They sustained long enough to be able to push it past. So following that, they want to take that brawl up close and personal. There's no more Wolverine on the enemy team, so that allows Hulk to dive in. He has his ultimate, so he's going to be able to use that. Just keep the supports in line. But because he gets exiled at just the right time, he doesn't get to use it. So Hogs goes down, Rymazing goes down as well. Battle of the ults, at the very least, we were able to use the Sue Storm ult reflexively, but with Hulk gone, and also Rymazing getting picked, it doesn't even matter that the team gets a pick onto one of their vanguards here. They have to back away because that was the vast majority of their presence, now no longer on point. Trying to stay alive as best as possible without trickling. They only have to wait for one more person to come back, and as they get back from spawn, we're looking at the ults, right? So Rymazing has his ult, Hogs has his ult. On the other side of things, they know that there's no more defensive ults for the enemy team, as well as no more ults for us. They're going to be about the same time as they were on the last one. So let's see how they pace this time. We get the ideal opportunity for Hulk, where the enemy supports are now not looking at their team. So this fight happens at the same time that Hogs is going in to now bully this backline here with the Hulk ult. We're actually going to see Crazy Mang do the exact same thing. But look at how Hogs is slightly more effective. He immediately starts targeting the supports, and not only that, but over on this side, everybody on Nightmare knows that they do not have to worry about Hulk. Hulk is fine. He's the Hulk, right? Aramori is going to be able to try to get some heals on him if he needs them, but compare that to what Flashfire is doing. Crazy Mang goes into his ultimate here, dives in. The rest of the team is following in with that, right? Trying to capitalize on that. So nobody's looking at Hulk. This allows Hogs to just get as much value as he possibly can. Now, Crazy Mang does end up trying to dive, and instead of soloing out the supports, he's soloing out a Vanguard. Mace is not going to die from this. He's Thor, right? So Thor is actually able to come out on top. Doesn't matter. We just wasted that Hulk's time, and by the time Hulk comes out of that cage, everybody's already dead, right? Nightmare has established dominance. Nightmare has established victory because they know how to split the fight. That is going to be very important. Let's look at their defensive setup here and how Nightmare establishes presence off the rip. So notice that they're all up on top of here when the match starts. This way they can get a very early opportunity to see what the enemy is doing, plan as fast as possible around it. Establishing presence up here means that if any enemies are on the ground, they're gonna have a harder time coming up here. You just have a better chance of isolating some 1v1s from up on top there. We're going to be seeing Sikiet try to take an early fight up at the top. Super Gomez diving over. He's got the Magneto bubble and just doing damage, trying to get that ult online. So now that the beginning of the fight is done and we haven't established any picks yet, we haven't established much other than the fact that we know how this fight is going to look. Let's see what the team does. So they're falling back. They're just trying to stabilize as best as possible, not let anybody get into their backlines, not let anybody get into a flank position, and let's watch how this starts to shape up. The very first pick is going to come as, well, we get Sikiet launching in with a Storm ult. That is going to cause Aramori to go for the Cloak and Dagger. Remember, you always want to use your ults second if you're on the defense. That allows everybody to survive through. Second Cloak and Dagger ult is going to come from the other side. And remember on Domination how they were able to use the Namor ult in order to cancel out a support ult. Well, in this, Namor is banned, but they have Magneto. And if you have Magneto, that means you have a Meteor M. And they time this perfectly here. So Karoba is going to pop the Luna Snow ult. The enemy is going to pop theirs to counter. And Mace has a Meteor M ready to go right on top of Luna Snow's head. And if it's K-pop versus Meteor, I think a Meteor is probably going to win in that fight. So they're able to cancel this entire push. That being said, right now, it is just a period of stability. We are in an era of stability. So they jump up, same thing. Make sure nobody comes up to the side. They push up really close up here. Rymazing is going to use his ult. And Rymazing using his ult here just keeps everybody far back. They don't have any support ults to deal with, so it's just a free pick and it's just buying time, running down their clock. Now, I don't think that this was the best idea ever, and you'll see why in a second. So Storm ult comes back online really quickly. Rymazing Raimazing's already at almost 20%, right? But in the same vein, right now, the enemy has their Hulk online, their Hulk ult comes out, but we also have a Hulk. Now, with that happening with both teams at the same time, it gets a little bit sticky. Speaking of sticky, Sickiet is about to dive through with their ultimate, and this is why I don't think it was that great that Raimazing burned his ult super early. So Aramori is gonna go down here, and when you lose a strategist like that, it hurts. Now, they do get the trade, but Hogs goes down in the interim. So right now, they realize, hey, we gotta push back, we lost that fight. So not holding on to that ult and just using it to keep them in spawn and just kind of back them into a corner didn't end up working out just because of the state of the ultimate economy. So Meteor M gonna be coming out on the other side now, and it is gonna land directly on Karova's head, which is unfortunate because a Luna Snow ult was ready to go. That is gonna prevent that Luna Snow ult from coming out, which means that all this area is pushed. You'd see the team knows that they have to push all the way back. They lose Raimazing as well, but it's not over just yet. Cloak and Dagger ult gonna come out and make sure that they can hold this out. There's another Luna Snow, another Meteor on top of the K-pop artist's head, but this one doesn't connect. So we're just gonna still have a fight of just ultimate after ultimate after ultimate. Hella ult on the side of the attackers makes things a little bit harder, but Karova still has Luna Snow ult, so now that's gonna come out. Also, we have a Storm ult, and as the picks start coming out on both sides, it ends up going in the favor of Flashfire. Because at the end of the day, after all of your ults go out, it is just gonna be a pure team fight, and unfortunately over here, on this side of the map, it is just going to go towards the attackers. So defenders now are getting ready to stack up for their next fight. A lot of teams would try to take the fight up here, close to this hallway. They would try to take the fight up here, but we have a lot of people running back from spawn. So we have to wait until we can get into a good position. And the good position that they're gonna get into is up on top. They wanna take this high ground for two very specific reasons. The first reason is that they're able to get all together. There's a lot of cover. It's easy for the supports to be able to dive off. The second is because if there's anybody that tries to go up for the flank, well, they're already there. If anybody is trying to be down on this bottom part here, well, we have a high ground, which isn't necessarily an advantage, but it does make things easier for positioning when the point has to go around this bend and back into there. We are basically establishing that we are on the best of both sides. Now, as the ults start to trade yet again, Super Gomez is going to be going with the Galactic Legend, and Hogs is going to try to do the Hulk thing, where you get behind the enemy backline and get everyone to turn around. Not as effective as they would like it to be, but that's going to be okay. Hogs goes down. Mace is able to sustain, stay alive. Aramori goes for the Cloak and Dagger ult. Cloak and Dagger ult is gonna allow Raimazing some space to get a pick on the Storm, and it's gonna pop the enemy Luna Snow. Mace does not manage to get the hit. Magneto threw the bubble onto the Luna Snow, so even though that was a direct hit, it just burst the Magneto bubble. So right now, of course, the team has to pull back. But notice they still have Storm ults, right? So the team pulls back, but they are trying to make sure that this does not go past this line right here. This is a lot easier for the defenders to hold because this choke point is just one area that goes down. If they want to take a really wide flank, it's just going to be unideal. So right now, this choke, super important. Storm ult comes out, and hey, can we find a pick? Yes, we can. That pick is going to come through. You might recognize this from the clip that I casted. And yeah, it is absolutely wild. They're able to shut it down, make sure that that push does not come to fruition. Now, an important note, a successful team fight there means that now we actually have a chance to try and get up close and take the fight really close to their spawn. Again, remembering that we want to get their ultimates out as soon as possible and not on the point if they can avoid it. Kurova has a defensive ult that's able to counter the Storm ult. Now we have a Cloak and Dagger ult that comes out, but it's in the middle of the Luna Snow ult, so neither here nor there. The team backs up to the point right now, and they're gonna back into their choke. They're gonna back into their choke where they can try to get the absolute maximum out of this push. Mace survives thanks to some great timing from the heals, and the entire team falls back. They stay in their line, and the attackers try to set up, but they burned all their ults just getting to this point, while Nightmare has been charging their ults getting to this point. So, Luna Snow ult comes out from Yang. Mace tries to kill the K-pop idol, gets bubbled again. It's fine because we have Rymazing with his Storm ult. Storm ult is going to come out from Sticky. It doesn't land where it needs to, but Rymazing's is going to land exactly where it needs to. And we get enough picks to establish dominance. We get enough picks to end the game here, and that is their defensive half. And finally, we're gonna check in on their attack half and see what the team has cooking. So look at their team composition right now. It looks a little bit different. So what we're gonna be seeing right at the beginning is Super Gomez goes to Scarlet Witch. They're not gonna be playing Scarlet Witch, but remember how Jeff uses the bubbles? Well, we also have Mace getting the ability to use the sword from the team up ability with Scarlet Witch, even though we don't have Scarlet Witch. This is insane. That pressure allows them to push all the way past that initial line. That, remember, this starting line with everybody up on top here was the exact same thing that Nightmare did, but Nightmare was able to hold on to it for far longer because just in the opening, Mace with that sword was extremely oppressive, and it shoved the entire defending line backwards. And now on this approach, because they don't have to worry about that upper deck, everybody can just be focused on this downward point. That even allows Kurova to deal some damage as Luna Snow, finding a pick, and that first pick happening off the rip means that they can just carry that momentum around the corner into the first defensive ult. First defensive ults being procced means that we have our first reflexive ult. Reflexive ult online means that, well, we're gonna have an opening to probably do some more stagger. Well, there is a Cloak and Dagger that goes in. Meteor M takes out the Luna Snow. Doesn't take out Cloak and Dagger, so it's not fully ideal. But hey, I will take a pick over support any day of the week. Meteor M on the other side is going to come through as well. Not going to find the pick. Sikiet and Rymazing going to have dueling tornadoes. Rymazing is going to be the one that makes it land because they also have Super Gomez in the ult doing a ton of damage off the side. Now, Sotsi on the Hulk is going to try to go into that Super Hulk mode and do the thing where you can bully and stall out for time, but it just isn't going to be anything more than a trickle. Galactic Legend comes out as well, but there's nobody to back it up. So even though he does find the pick onto Rymazing, as he gets exiled by Hulk over here, he just gets completely shut down. The rest of the team comes into play here, but the damage has already been done. The ults have already been utilized. Hogs pulls his ult out, and it just collapses into a very staggered fight where, again, we have the back line not healing the front line taking a bunch of 1v1s, and it's just a really, really messy fight. But Sotsi as a Hulk actually does a really good job of stalling for time. It's just that there's only so much you could do, especially as he demechs on this side instead of inside of the point. Just that extra millisecond that the team can't take advantage of. And remember, on their defensive half, they established really early on presence on this high ground. Well, look at what's happening now on their attack half. The moment that gets past that first point, they are already up here. They're not giving the enemy team a chance to establish up on top of here. Even though it's only 2 or 3 people, the rest of the team, they just can't get the right timing in order to fight that. And this is really, really powerful. This allows the team to just start doing chip damage, start charging the ult. Rymazing Storm ult already back online, and as soon as it's online, just get through. Right, we have 4 minutes on the clock, but we don't have that far to go. We just want to get there as soon as possible. And look at that. It triggers a Luna Snow ult. And we're going to counter that Luna Snow ult with our own. Meteor M hopefully going to find the Luna Snow here. It does. And as we have Cloak and Dagger, it's fine because we also have a Cloak and Dagger on the other side. And the other thing I want you to pay attention to as well is look at Rymazing's Storm ult. Right, so through the Cloak and Dagger, the duel of the Cloak and Dagger ultimates, Rymazing already has the Storm ult back online. Right, like it's insane. The fact that he already has online ready to use it. Now, on Flashfire, they're going to try to go for the Galactic Legend and take the picks on the back line, but they're playing so close together that it's not even a flank. It's just a fight somewhere else. The Meteor M doesn't hit. We also saw Rymazing go for his ult way in the back there. It's just pressure on pressure on pressure. So above all else, focusing on your ult timings, understanding how ults will displace enemies and disperse a team during a fight, and knowing how best to work together to force the enemies to use their ults in less than ideal situations. In my eyes, nobody has a better understanding of these macro mechanics like Nightmare. But what do you think? Is there a team that does it better? And will Nightmare even make it to the top 3 in the Season 1 tournament? Leave a comment down below. If you liked what you saw, I'll be going even more in depth on certain pro players in the top 500 and highlighting key differences across different teams and different regions. Thanks so much for watching this to the end. Subscribe if you haven't already, and don't worry, you'll see me around.